Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Cato and I'm so glad you're joining me again today. I am still loving this flat shaker trend. I think they're easier to make than normal shaker cards, and today I'm switching it up and using some unique shaker pieces. Now I have to admit, I had all of these flowers left over from a previous project, but I am going through the stamping process one more time just for the purposes of this video. And I'm using the Petite Painted Posies tiny stamp set by the Stamp Market. This is a super tiny layering stamp set, and I'm not sure if there are coordinating dies, but I don't have them. So if I don't have coordinating dies, I do it like this. I stamp one layer of the stamp 4 times on a square piece of cardstock. I cut a bunch of squares beforehand, and then I line up the second layer and I go through the process again. And I do that for all the layers of all the flowers. And then I fussy cut out all of this. I think when I made this, I made like thousands of pieces. I went a little bit mad. So I had a lot left over, and that's why I wanted to use them up for this shaker card. Now I will make a background, and I'm doing that on a piece of watercolor cardstock, and I'm just going to do some ink smushing. Ink smushing is a really quick and easy way to make an interesting background, and today I am using the Concord and 9th inks because I really like them for ink smushing. I think they give more texture to your background than normal dye inks would. So I'm just pressing various ink cubes onto my slick surface. This is just a laminated sheet of white cardstock, and then I am spritzing that with water to activate the ink. And I can just lay down my piece of cardstock in there and just hope the result is nice. I am drying this with my heat tool in between each layer, and that will give you the most texture. All the inks I used will be listed in the description below. For the sentiment, I die cut these letters with the Heather Uppercase die set by Pinkfresh Studio, and I cut 4 layers of each letter and glued them together with Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. This makes them sturdier and easier to work with for this technique, and it also adds some nice dimension. Now I'm pressing them partly into my embossing ink pad, and this is the Versamark ink, and then I can sprinkle on my Wow Ultra High Silver Embossing Powder. If you're using regular embossing powder, I would add multiple layers. I am adding 2 for each letter on this as well. I do that by heat setting it, but I do sprinkle on the embossing powder on all the letters at once, so I can heat set everything at once. So I heat set the first layer, then once it's still hot, I dip it into the leftover embossing powder and heat set it again. That gives you a really nice embossed effect. To make the shaker, I cut a piece of plastic packaging, or you could use thin acetate, to be 1 inch larger on both sides than my cardstock, and I am folding that around my card panel. And I'm just adhering that with double-sided tape. This is easiest to do because liquid glue would shift around and you'd have to wait ages for it to dry. I just cut off the little corners there because they always fold up a little bit, and then I can just put in my shaker bits. I am picking some flowers for this in different sizes. I will also add some leaves, but of course I am going to add some sparkle as well. I will add some green sequins and some silver glitter to coordinate with my embossing powder. Now these won't shake around as much as other shaker bits because they are larger, and if they overlap each other, they sometimes get a little bit stuck, but they will still shake around and be fun. I definitely have enough pieces left over to make tons of these cards, and I probably will because these pieces have been sitting in my cupboard for months now, and I can't figure out how to use them anymore, so I think I will make maybe a wreath card with them and some more shaker cards like this, because I really like how this one turned out, and because I had all the pieces already made, this card didn't take me long at all. I'm just sealing that last edge shut, and then the shaker card will be finished, or the shaker portion at least. Now for the sentiment, I am lining all of my letters up onto my grid mat. This makes it really easy to make sure your sentiment is straight. If you have separate letters, I always do this. It's a really great technique. I probably picked it up from Kathy Zilski or Jennifer McGuire, someone smarter than I am. So I space them out exactly how I want them to be on my card, and then I can put a piece of purple tape over it. That picks them up all at once, and then you put glue on the back of them all at once, and you can just glue that onto your card panel. Now, first, because this is a shaker, it's a little bit weird to adhere things on top of that because it's not sturdy plastic, you know? So I am adhering this first on my card so it will be a little bit more sturdy, and then I will adhere the sentiment on top of it. I'm using more of that double-sided tape to adhere this to my card panel, to my card base, sorry. And then I can use some Glossy Accents because this is a glue that adheres really well to slick surfaces. I don't really recommend the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue for this. You really want to use something like Glossy Accents or something equally as strong. Then I put that on there and I leave it on until I think the glue is completely dry, and then I can peel off that purple tape gently. And that will leave you with a nicely centered sentiment that's straight, and it wasn't really hard to adhere that on there at all. Now these dies from the letters also cut out an outline, and I am adhering that with the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. Why? Because they barely fit around the inside of the letters because of that added embossing powder and that added height with the multiple layers I cut and glued together. So they will be kept in place with the die that's already there. And if you just adhere that down with some glue, you can use any glue with this. This won't move around and this will adhere down. This won't come off again. If you had glued the first letters in place with Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, you would end up with smears of glue all over your card and no dies adhered. So it's really useful to have a couple of different types of glue, and I really recommend Glossy Accents because you can do a lot of things with it. You can add embellishments. I mean, it is an embellishment with that glue, so you should have, I think, at least 2 types of glue in your stash, and that would be something fine like the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, and then something like the Glossy Accents. I really recommend that. Now for my envelope, you just saw me fold it. I have done it a million times before. I just used the We Are Memory Keepers 123 punch board and followed the directions on there to make an A2 sized envelope. And now I'm just doing the same kind of ink smushing. I am keeping it to that lower left corner, as I always do with my envelope decorations. I really like to make sure I have enough space to simply write my address on there, or the recipient's address on there, so there's no confusion at the post office. I don't do fancy lettering or anything. I really just want this to arrive to the recipient. So I keep all my decorations in the lower left corner of my envelope, and that won't disrupt anything useful of information. So that's it. A really simple envelope, but it matches perfectly with our gorgeous little shaker card. I really like how this card turned out. I hope you did too. If you did, make sure to leave a like on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below because I would love to read them. If you want to see more of my videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And I just want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.